Welcome to Pink Blade. Here, we don't just watch stories, we step inside them. Today, we're diving deep into Bridgerton Season 2, Episode 6.
The Choice, or as I like to call it, the episode that broke the internet.
And broke a few hearts while it was at it. Look, if you are listening to this, we are assuming you have seen the episode. We aren't going to hold back on spoilers for this specific hour of television because, frankly, you can't analyze a car crash without talking about the impact.
Oh, absolutely not. And this is a car crash in the most exquisitely designed, beautifully costumed way imaginable. It is arguably the most pivotal, stressful, and explosive hour of the entire second season.
It's the crucible.
It really is.
Exactly. And we have a lot to get through today. We've got the production notes. We have interviews with director Tom Verica, some incredible costume details from Sophie Canale, and a mountain of very angry, very passionate fan discourse to sort through.
A mountain is putting it lightly.
But our mission today isn't just to recap the disaster. We need to figure out why. Why the showrunners decided to take this wedding, which, in the book, never happens, all the way to the altar.
That is the million-dollar question. Why inflict this much pain on the characters and, frankly, on us?
Right. So let's set the stage. We are at the wedding, but before the first flower petal is dropped, we really need to talk about the environment here. Because watching this, I didn't feel like I was at a wedding. I felt like I was in a high-security prison disguised as a garden party.
That's a very, very astute observation. If you look at the social architecture of this episode, it is designed as a trap. But it's not just a trap for the characters. It's a specific sociological concept coming to life. It's a panopticon.
Panopticon. Okay. For those of us who skipped Philosophy 101, lay it out. What does that mean here?
So the concept comes from Jeremy Bentham, but it was really popularized by the philosopher Foucault. It's an architectural design for a prison where a single watchman sits in the central tower. From that tower, the watchman can see into every single cell. But the inmates, they can't see the watchman. They never know if they're being observed at any given moment.
So, because they might be watched at any time.
They police themselves. Exactly. They behave perfectly because the threat of observation is constant and invisible.
And in this episode, Queen Charlotte is the watchman.
Precisely. But she's not just sitting in a tower. She has weaponized the entire venue. You have to look at the blocking of the footmen. They aren't just there to hold trays of champagne.
No, they're positioned.
They are stationed at every exit, every corner, every hallway. The Queen isn't just hosting a wedding for her diamond. She is running a covert intelligence operation to catch Lady Whistledown.
Which adds this layer of anxiety that goes way beyond will he say I do. The entire site is on lockdown. It's a surveillance state just with excellent floral arrangement.
And that pressure, that constant observation is what makes the romance impossible. How can Anthony or Kate act on their feral impulses, as the actors call them, when they are literally in a cage made of gold and silk?
Every glance is a risk.
Every single one.
It's interesting you mention the cage because I want to push back a little on the idea that this is just about social pressure from the ton. I think we have to talk about the money because I feel like the audience sometimes gets distracted by the tiaras and forgets that the Sharma family is completely broke.
Oh, they aren't just broke. That's an understatement. They are destitute. They are on the brink of absolute ruin.
Right. This isn't just, oh, we can't afford a new carriage. It's, we're going to be on the street with nowhere to go.
Lady Mary is a social pariah because she ran off with a clerk, a commoner.
And we learned they exhausted their life savings just to buy the boat tickets from Bombay to London. They have nothing left.
And remember that horrible Sheffield dinner from the previous episode? The condition for the dowry, the money that would actually save them, was that Edwina had to marry a titled Englishman. So if this wedding to the Viscount fails...
The money is gone, the lifeline is cut. It's not just a social stumble, it's financial annihilation. So Kate isn't just a meddling older sister here. She's the CEO of a company that's facing imminent bankruptcy. This wedding is a survival mechanism. It's their only option.
That's such a crucial distinction. It raises the stakes from heartbreak to ruin. If Edwina walks away from that altar, the Sharmas have no home to return to in India and absolutely no standing in London. They are effectively erasing themselves from society.
Which brings us to the groom, Anthony Bridgerton. I really want to get into his headspace here because he looks unwell.
He looks like a man marching to the gallows. There's no joy in him.
None at all. He's the repressed robot, as the creators call him. But why is he pushing this so hard? He knows he loves Kate. He knows Kate loves him. They almost kissed in the woods. They had that moment in the library. Why is he still standing at the altar with his sister?
This is where we have to look directly at his trauma. Anthony's entire psychology, everything he does, is defined by the death of his father, Edmund.
He was just a teenager when it happened.
A boy, really. And he watched his mother, Violet, be so completely destroyed by grief. She essentially checked out of life for a while because she loved Edmund so much. So Anthony internalized this very specific, very broken logic. Love equals pain. Excruciating, world-ending pain.
So avoiding love is a safety measure. It's self-preservation.
It's a defense mechanism, absolutely. He believes that if he marries for duty, marries someone he respects and is fond of but doesn't truly love, like Edwina, he is protecting himself, but more importantly, he thinks he is protecting her.
How so?
In his twisted logic, he thinks he won't destroy Edwina with grief when he dies because she won't love him that deeply. He thinks a passionless marriage is a kindness.
That is so twisted. He thinks he's being a martyr, but he's actually being the villain in his own story and in theirs.
He thinks he's being a responsible patriarch. He's operating on what's called the sunk cost fallacy. He's invested so much time, so much effort, so much family reputation into this engagement that he genuinely believes he can't turn back.
He can just white-knuckle his way through a loveless marriage for the next 50 years.
And that somehow that will be a noble sacrifice.
Wow. And then there's Edwina. Poor, sweet, naive Edwina. She calls him my Viscount. She honestly thinks she's in a Disney movie.
She's the victim of the diamond trap. She has completely bought into the narrative that society has fed her. You are the diamond of the season, you get the prince, or in this case, the Viscount, and you live happily ever after.
She doesn't realize she is stepping into a purely transactional arrangement.
She has no idea she's the merchandise.
It's so tragic because the audience, we know the bridge is out. We are screaming at the screen, turn the carriage around, stop.
Yeah.
But they are all just smiling and waving as they head for the cliff.
And that tension is the engine of the entire episode. We aren't watching to see if they get married. We are watching to see how it all explodes.
Which brings us to the structure of the episode itself. This is episode 6. Usually in the rom-com formula, the whole objecting to the wedding scene, it happens before the bride puts on the dress.
Right, or at least before she walks down the aisle. The groom has a crisis of conscience the night before, or the best friend bursts into the dressing room with some revelation.
But Bridgerton plays a very dangerous game here. They put her in the dress, they put the veil on, they march her all the way down the aisle. They have the Queen of England sitting in the front pew. The Archbishop starts talking. They take it to the absolute limit.
It's the narrative fulcrum. That's what the writers call this episode. A fulcrum is the point on which a lever rests and pivots. Up until this exact moment, Kate and Anthony have been lying to themselves. They truly believed they could do this.
They thought they could suppress it.
Yes. This episode is designed to test that lie. It asks the question, how strong is your repression? Can it withstand the actual tangible reality of saying the vow out loud?
And the answer is a resounding no.
No, it cannot. And this brings up this really interesting concept of the economy of truth. We tend to think of lying as an active fabrication. You know, I did not eat the cookie. But this episode argues that silence, the act of omission, is actually the most dangerous and corrosive form of deception.
Kate and Anthony haven't necessarily lied to Edwina in words. Well, okay, they have a bit, but mostly they've just omitted the truth of their feelings.
Correct. And that silence has built a pressure cooker. The tonal whiplash that you feel as a viewer, where the episode goes from this beautiful fairy tale wedding to a horror movie in a matter of seconds, that whiplash mirrors the violent collapse of that silence.
Okay, I want to get into the weeds now. I want to deep dive into the specific scenes because there is so much craft here that is so easy to miss if you're just hyperventilating over the plot.
Let's start with the altar.
The altar, scene 1. This is the moment everything changes.
And visually, it's a masterpiece of tension. You have the grandeur of the church, the flowers, the light streaming in, the queen herself, and then you have the eye contact acting.
It's so intense. Anthony is standing right next to Edwina. She looks stunning. She is radiant, smiling up at him with all the love in the world. But Anthony, he's not looking at his bride.
No, he is physically present with Edwina, but his eyes, his entire being, are locked on the maid of honor. He is tracking Kate like a predator. It's that feral quality Jonathan Bailey, the actor, talked about so much. He literally can't look away from her.
And then the catalyst.
Yeah.
The thing that breaks the spell. The bangle drops.
Let's talk about that bangle for a second, because it's not just a piece of jewelry.
No, it's so much more. So Kate is wearing these beautiful emerald and gold bangles. We know from an earlier scene that these belong to her mother. They're Indian heritage pieces.
They were meant for her own wedding day.
Yes. But she, being the martyr she always is, gave them to Edwina to wear. And Edwina, in a moment of trying to be sweet, gave them back and insisted, no, you wear them.
So it's already this heavy symbol. It represents Kate's history, her mother's love, her cultural identity, and her constant self-sacrifice. And in the middle of the ceremony, it just slips off her wrist.
The sound design here is crucial. The church is silent. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. It's all formal and quiet. And then, klihang.
It's this percussive, metallic sound that just shatters the formal silence. It cuts right through the pageantry and the reverence of the moment.
And Anthony's reaction is pure, unthinking instinct. He doesn't think. He doesn't look at Edwina. He doesn't hesitate. He dives.
He rushes to Kate. He grabs her hands to put the bangle back on. And in that moment, the world falls away. This was a specific directorial choice from Tom Verica. He wanted to show that for Anthony and Kate, in that second, no one else in that church exists. Not Edwina, not the Queen, not God.
And the sources call this the click for Edwina.
Yes, this is the moment Edwina finally wakes up. It's not a dramatic confession. It's not a secret letter found in a drawer. It's a look.
She sees it.
She sees her fiancé holding her sister's hands, staring into her eyes with a level of raw intimacy and desperation that he has never, ever shown her. Not once.
It's just undeniable. You can explain away a lot of things. You can rationalize odd behavior, but you can't explain away the fact that your groom looks like he wants to devour your sister right in front of the archbishop.
Exactly. The body language betrays the lie that the words were trying to uphold. Anthony's sense of duty kept his mouth shut, but his instinct moved his feet.
So the wedding screeches to a halt. Edwina runs out. Chaos ensues. And we get scene 2. The closet or the vestry confrontation.
The scene is just agonizing. They're hiding in this tiny closet, which is maybe a bit on the nose, metaphorically surrounded by the vestments of the church, the symbols of the union they just destroyed.
And Anthony, in his panic, delivers perhaps the worst, most unromantic line in the history of romance.
Oh, God. The thorn. You have to say it.
He looks her dead in the eye and says she's a thorn easily removed from the blossoming flower of our lives. Anthony, read the room.
It is spectacularly clumsy, just jaw-droppingly awful. But I actually think it's brilliant writing because it shows how utterly desperate he is. He's trying to sell the delusion one last time.
He's trying to get the train back on the tracks.
He's trying to convince Kate, and really, himself, that she is the only problem here. If she just goes back to India, disappears, then the flower of his marriage to Edwina will magically bloom.
He's treating people like machinery. Like, oh, just remove part A and the machine will work perfectly.
Exactly. It just reveals his profound emotional stuntedness. But the beautiful irony of the scene is, while he's saying this horrible, clinical, unromantic thing, the physical chemistry is just off the charts.
Oh, it's sizzling. They're inches apart. They're breathing into each other's mouths. They're fighting. But it feels like the most intense foreplay.
And that highlights the tragedy of it all. They're literally arguing about how to fix the wedding to Edwina while proving with every breath, with every glance that they belong together. They're still trying to make decisions for Edwina, even as the wedding crumbles around them.
Which leads beautifully to the moment where Edwina finally takes the reins herself. Scene 3. The King George intervention.
This is a massive turning point, not just for Edwina, but I think for the entire show's tone. King George bursts in, he's confused, he's having an episode, he thinks it's his wedding day to Charlotte.
It's a terrifying moment. The guards are tense. The Queen looks utterly devastated and embarrassed. It's her private pain made public.
And everyone freezes. The powerful Viscount Anthony, the ever-capable Kate, the imperious Queen, they are all paralyzed. They don't know what to do.
Except Edwina.
Except Edwina, the girl everyone thought was a naive doll. She steps forward. She speaks to him with such grace and gentleness. She calls him Your Majesty. She plays along with his reality, just enough to calm him down. I believe the Queen is waiting for you.
It's the kindest, most compassionate thing anyone does in the entire episode.
It is. And the Queen watches this,
Oh.
and you see her face change. For the first time, she drops the Game of Thrones act. She sees the power of true love she is always talking about, but she sees it in a way she didn't expect. She sees it as compassion, as grace under pressure.
And that pivot changes everything. The Queen approaches Edwina and tells her that choice is the greatest luxury a woman has.
Which is the theme of the whole episode. The Queen, in that moment, empowers Edwina to stop being a pawn in everyone else's game. And Edwina runs out of the church, not because she's a victim fleeing a crime scene, but as a woman reclaiming her own power.
Which leaves the church empty, the stage is cleared, and it gives us scene 4, The empty chapel kiss.
The aftermath.
The guests have fled. The flowers are starting to wilt. The queen is furious. The Sharmas are ruined. The Bridgertons are humiliated. And it's just Kate and Anthony standing in the wreckage they created.
And they kiss, finally, after 6 long episodes of near misses and stolen glances.
It's messy. It's not a triumphant kiss.
It's incredibly messy. The sources, the creators describe it as a moment of mutual destruction. This isn't the swelling music we won kind of kiss. This is a kiss of desperate relief mixed with absolute catastrophic ruin.
It feels, I don't want to say wrong, but it feels profoundly fucked up.
It is, because that's the truth of it.
Because they just burn their families' lives, reputations, and futures to the ground for this.
And that complexity is what elevates it beyond a simple romance. If they had kissed in the garden back in episode 4, it would have been sweet and lovely. Kissing here over the metaphorical dead body of the wedding? It's dark. It's complicated. It proves that their attraction is a force of nature. It's destructive as much as it is creative.
Now, I want to pivot a little to how they actually pulled this off physically. Because the production of this episode was, by all accounts, a beast.
A massive, massive undertaking. I mean, the location transformation alone is worth noting. They filmed at St. James's Church in Piccadilly.
Which is a real historic church in London.
Yes, a very famous one. But they had to completely transform it into Buckingham Chapel. The production notes say they had over 200 crew members, massive cranes for lighting rigs. They brought in tons of flowers and decorations, and they did all of this inside the Netflix bubble.
Right. We have to remember this was filmed during very strict COVID protocols.
Imagine the stress of that. You are filming the biggest, most crowded scene of the entire season, managing hundreds of extras in full period costume with wigs and makeup, all while trying to keep everyone safe from a global pandemic. The logistics are just mind-boggling.
And Tom Verica, the director, he made some really specific and interesting choices with the camera. I loved the note I read about his upstairs-downstairs visual language.
Yes, this is such a great detail. So, when the camera is on the Bridgertons or the Queen, the upstairs characters, the aristocrats, it's steady, it's on a dolly or a crane, it's composed, elegant, almost rigid.
It reflects their social standing.
Exactly. But when the camera switches to the staff,
The footmen, the maids, the people actually working the wedding.
when we see them, Verica switched to handheld cameras, and that creates a sense of vibrancy and chaos and movement.
It's subtle, but it makes the world feel so much more alive. It shows you that beneath this rigid, frozen, aristocratic layer, there is this frantic human engine just trying to keep it all running.
He also encouraged spontaneity from the actors. He told Jonathan Bailey and Simone Ashley to just let the world fall away during that Bengal moment. He wanted their reactions to feel unscripted, almost feral, to contrast sharply with the highly rehearsed and rigid nature of the wedding ceremony itself.
Speaking of unscripted feelings, let's talk about the clothes. Because Sophie Canale, the costume designer, was telling a whole story with fabric weights.
I love this detail so much, it's brilliant. If you track Kate's costumes throughout the season, she starts in these heavy silks and taffetas. They're very stiff, very structured fabrics. It's armor. She is literally protecting herself with her clothing.
But as she starts to fall in love, as her walls come down,
The fabrics get lighter, they get softer. By this episode, even though she is dressed formally as the maid of honor, the fabric has movement, it flows. It's a visual reflection of her growing vulnerability.
and the jewelry. I mentioned the bangles earlier, but the whole Sharma look was so intentional.
Absolutely. The jewelry was custom-made for the show, inspired by historical Indian designs. You see lots of gold, greens, ruby reds. It's a constant visual tribute to their heritage. They aren't trying to completely assimilate into the very pale pastel Regency look. They are wearing their identity.
Which makes the bangle dropping onto the cold English floor of the church even more symbolic. It's her heritage literally clashing with this institution.
It's a perfect visual metaphor.
And we absolutely have to talk about the music. The string quartet covers are a Bridgerton signature, but the song choice for Kate's Walk Down the Aisle, Sign of the Times.
By Harry Styles, of all people.
Now, I'm a Harry Styles fan, so I know the lyrics to that song. It starts with, "Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times, welcome to the final show."
It's not exactly "Here Comes the Bride," is it? It's not a joyous tune.
It's apocalyptic. It's a song about the end of the world, or, as some interpret it, a dying mother telling her child it's okay to let go. It's incredibly somber.
And using that melody, which is so beautiful but so melancholic, it sets a tone of absolute dread. It tells the audience, before anything even happens, this is not a beginning, this is an ending.
It creates a modern emotional resonance. If they had just used Pachelbel's canon, we would have felt the pomp and circumstance. With this, we feel a sense of impending doom.
It's just brilliant music supervision. It completely undercuts the visuals. The visuals say fairy tale wedding. The music says disaster is imminent.
I want to bring in the actors' perspectives here, too, because playing this level of repression and emotional turmoil must be absolutely exhausting.
For sure. And Charithra Chandran, who plays Edwina, she had a really interesting insight into her character's reaction. She noted that Edwina's anger in the vestry isn't just about the wedding stopping. It's about the very specific realization that during the vows, the most sacred moment, Anthony wasn't looking at her. He was looking at Kate.
That betrayal of attention is almost worse than anything.
Exactly. And for that vestry scene, she made a very specific acting choice to play it with detachment.
She didn't cry, which I found so powerful.
She didn't sob or break down. She went numb. She said in an interview that she wanted to portray shut-down mode, that state of shock where you can't even process the grief yet, which I think made it so much more chilling. If she had been screaming and crying, Anthony could have tried to comfort her. But her coldness, he couldn't touch that.
And she emphasized the sisterhood aspect of the betrayal. She said Edwina isn't just heartbroken over the man she barely knows. She's utterly devastated that Kate, her rock, her protector, the person she loves most, was the one who betrayed her.
That's the real love story that breaks in this episode, the one between the sisters.
And what about Jonathan Bailey and Simone Ashley? They kept using that word feral in their interviews about this episode.
They did. Bailey said Anthony's obsession with Kate belongs to the animal realm. It's not logical, it's not proper, it's based on scent, on sight, on pure instinct.
Hence the aggressive sniffing we've seen all season.
Laughs. The sniffing is iconic, yes. But it speaks to something primal he can't control. And they both discussed how, because their characters couldn't speak their feelings out loud, they had to rely entirely on intense eye contact to convey that magnetic pull that existed between them.
Simone Ashley also pointed out that this episode is the one that finally strips away all of Kate's armor. She's usually the strong one, the one in control. But here, she's just a terrified girl who realizes she has ruined everything for everyone she loved.
It completely levels the playing field. They are both exposed, both vulnerable, both at fault.
Now, we cannot do a deep dive on this episode without addressing the elephant in the room, the fan reaction. Because the internet did not know how to handle this hour of television.
It was a war zone, truly.
Let's start with the book purists, because they had a lot to say.
Right. So for context for anyone who hasn't read the books, in the Julia Quinn novel, The Viscount Who Loved Me, this wedding does not happen.
They stop it way earlier, right?
Much, much earlier. The love triangle does not go all the way to the altar. Edwina is never publicly humiliated in front of the queen and the entire ton. So book readers were, let's just say, frustrated.
Frustrated is putting it very mildly. They were furious.
They were. They felt the show took it too far. The main critique was, how can we possibly root for this couple to get together when they have publicly humiliated the sweet, innocent sister in the most brutal way possible?
They felt it made Kate and Anthony unredeemable.
It's a valid point. I get it. In the book, the conflict is much more internal. Here, the conflict is external wreckage that you can't just sweep under a rug.
But I would argue that for a visual medium like television, you need that external stakes. Internal monologue doesn't film well. You need the explosion to see the consequences.
That brings us to the whole Edwina victim or villain debate that raged online.
This was fascinating to watch unfold. Obviously, on one level, she is a victim of gaslighting. Her sister and her fiancé lied to her for months. That is undeniable.
But some fans started to push back and criticize her behavior. They pointed specifically to the half-sister comment she makes in the church.
You were my half-sister. Oof. That was ice cold.
It was brutal. Some fans thought that was unnecessarily cruel and showed a side of her that wasn't so sweet. Others thought she was naive for ignoring Kate's earlier warnings. Remember, Kate did tell her Anthony couldn't give her a love match. Edwina chose to believe she could change him.
So there's a real debate about her agency in all of this. Was she purely a passive victim, or did she participate in her own delusion to some extent?
The Reddit threads were analyzing every single line. The line, "You have lost your power over me," really confused some people. What power? But I think she meant the power Kate held over all of her life decisions. Kate was the puppet master, for good or ill, and in that moment, Edwina cut the strings.
And generally, fans just described feeling tonal whiplash.
Yes. Bridgerton is usually a swoon show. It's escapism, it's romance, it's fantasy. This episode was stress, it was anxiety. It felt like watching a thriller where the monster is the truth finally breaking out of its cage.
So, bringing it all home, after all the drama, the trauma, the gorgeous costumes, What is the deeper meaning here? What is the crucible of choice actually about?
I think the title says it all. It's about the luxury of choice.
The luxury. How so?
Well, think about it. Anthony begins the episode thinking he has no choice because of his duty. Kate thinks she has no choice because of her family's poverty. Even the queen, in some ways, thinks she has no choice because of the constraints of the crown.
But Edwina, the one who seemed to have the least power, is the one who finds the choice.
Exactly. The episode asks a really tough question. Is the pursuit of true love selfish when it destroys others? Anthony and Kate thought they were being selfless by denying their feelings. They thought that was the noble path. But the episode proves, quite brutally, that dishonesty, even well-intentioned dishonesty, is the most destructive force of all.
Their attempt to be good people actually caused infinitely more damage than if they had just been selfish and kissed in the garden back in episode 1.
Precisely. The lie caused the ruin, not the love itself.
And finally, that brings us to the cost of agency.
Edwina's arc in this episode ends with her reclaiming herself. She walks out. She chooses not to marry him, not because Kate told her to or Anthony did, but because she said so. She takes control.
But it leaves us with this huge, lingering question. And this is really the note the episode ends on.
Can you actually build a happy, healthy life on a foundation of wreckage and betrayal?
Kate and Anthony have the passion. We saw that in the kiss.
Yeah.
But can they survive the guilt? Can their families survive the scandal?
Is love enough to forgive this level of betrayal? The episode doesn't answer that. It just leaves us and them standing in the mess.
And that, I think, is why it's excellent television. It hurts, but it's true to the complexity of the situation.
It really is.
Well, on that cheerful note, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the wedding of the century. That wasn't. Thanks for listening to Pink Blade. If this episode revealed something new, text at the for lead. You can follow to explore the next chapter. And if a moment stayed with you, share it in the comments. Until next time, this is Pink Blade.